Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Wild Fish and Game Podcast. We got Justin Townsend here, my fellow co-host Adam.
How you guys doing?
And we've got a special guest today, Alana, who we'll introduce in just a minute. And today we're going to be talking a lot about truffles, foraging truffles, hunting for truffles. We mix up my words. I guess, first off, Alana, would you mind introducing yourself a bit to the listeners?
Yeah, so hi, everybody. Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. It's fun to get the chance to just chat about all the things. I'm Alana McGee, based out of Seattle, and I'm the owner of Truffle Dog Company, and we do all the things you can imagine relating to truffles. So training dogs, taking people out hunting. There are some kinds that can be grown, so we work with those farmers. So we do, if it's related to truffles, we probably do it.
That's awesome. How did you get into sort of like this whole adventure? I know we were talking timelines and stuff. How does one become a connoisseur of truffle hunting?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit random. So I have a background in animal behavior, and then I worked in the wine industry in California. Long story short, moved back to Pacific Northwest, where I'm from. And at the time, I have a brother who's involved in biology, all kinds of crazy science stuff. And he was talking about like mushrooms. He's like, oh, do you know there are truffles up there? And I was like, what? And at the time, I'm in Washington. And at the time, there was nobody, I don't want to say there was nobody, but there really was nobody looking for truffles in Washington. There was a real small community in Oregon. And this was like you said, like 2008, 2010, like around there. So real small community there. I had a dog who had a lot of energy. And I was like, well, let's give this a shot. So I worked with a couple of trainers on the narcotics side to kind of help hone some stuff. And then I honestly just started taking him out places and doing that legwork like you would as a forager, just kind of, cruising around, learning habitats, talked to some timber companies, talked to a bunch of scientists. A lot of them said we wouldn't find stuff in Washington. And I was like, well, we have the same habitats as Oregon. So they should be here. There's just nobody looking. So started doing that and started to find them. And then it just kind of snowballed pretty progressively from there. There really wasn't an infrastructure when I started. So a lot of what I did was teaching other people how to do it, because I figured like citizen science, we can all go out if we have trained dogs, figure out where these things are and learn a lot more. And it's crazy how far it's come in the last, what is this, like 15 years? And that we were talking about this earlier. It's crazy to think I've been doing it for that long, but like 15, 18 years. But yeah, it's come a really long way, and we know so much more than we did when I first started. And it's all thanks to like teaching people how to do this and people going out and putting in that legwork to like see where they are. So that's kind of the genesis, the short version. And the tandem piece to that is at the same time we are working on the wild hunting, there's a small industry of folks who grow European species of truffles, so not wild, but they cultivate them. Think of it like going to a winery and, grapes grow and stuff like that. And so we work with those farmers at the same time. That is also really hard to do, to grow them. And again, we've come a long way in that industry, and we thought we'd be a lot farther along, but we kind of did both at the same time. So all these things kind of at once, and the industry is small, but it's growing. So yeah, we've been a integral part of that in getting it set up here in the US in the Northwest. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. I've got so many questions and thoughts and ideas. I'll just warn you now, I've been thinking, this has been swimming in my head for a while. So how many different types of truffles kind of are in North America, and where are they located? I guess if there's a lot, the top ones are whichever is good.
So the soundbite I usually say is like, there are hundreds of species of truffles. There are only a handful that are culinary.
Okay.
So, and again, we're learning more and more. And so there's the kind that are grown on those farms. Those are the European ones that like you probably normally have in restaurants and stuff like that. And then the other ones are kind of split on the coasts a little bit. So in the Northwest and California, we have, and I'll use their Latin names too, but we have primarily the two main ones people find are our Oregon winter white truffles, and then what I call the Pacific, they call them Oregon black truffles, but I'm like, we have a lot in Washington, so I'm trying to rebrand it. So the Oregon white and the Oregon black are kind of the two primary ones out here. And then on the East Coast, and actually up in like Ontario, there's a bunch of stuff up there too. But on the East Coast, you have pecan truffles. It goes all the way down into Texas and Oklahoma as well.
Oh, cool.
And then you have there's two other species out there that people are starting to find. One is called the Appalachian truffle. It's Tuber caniculatum. Really hard to find still, but people are starting to find it. And then this one, I think they're calling it the Blue Ridge truffle. Again, like Western North Carolina. They just reclassified it, but Latin name is like Emaya gigantea or something like that. So there's a few on each coast, but we definitely have a majority kind of concentration here in the Northwest of kind of like heavy production of these things.
Have you heard of any sort of in the Rocky Mountain regions, or you think maybe too dry?
It's a place of exploration. And so like there are other ones that are like culinary, but you're only finding like one or two, right? Like it's not like a ton.
Okay.
So probably that's what I'll say. There's stuff. Is it like super tasty and good? Probably not. Is it edible? Probably. But yeah, I don't know a ton. And that's the hard part is the Rocky Mountains. And somebody was asking me about Montana the other day. And I was like, I know there's a little bit, but again, there aren't people out really looking for these things with dogs, which is the best way to do it. So, or pigs. So yeah, center of the country we don't know.
Before we get into too much, because there's so many awesome directions, do you want to just, for our listeners who maybe haven't tried truffles before, like what to expect from a European truffle compared to the ones we're finding in the Northwest, and where they grow, how they grow, that kind of thing?
All that kind of stuff, yeah. Yeah, well, so first of all, for people who don't know, they're basically like a mushroom that grows underground. So they are like the apple seed in an apple. It's how the truffle fungus reproduces. So, so the European ones, it's like taking different varieties of citrus is kind of how I describe it. Like an orange is kind of like a grapefruit, is kind of like a kumquat, is kind of like a lime, but they're all different sizes, different shapes, different climates. So it's really hard to kind of equate them across in terms of comparison. But the most expensive ones people think of are those Italian white truffles that are go for, at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nobody can grow those, like cultivate them. They're only found in certain parts of Europe, like Croatia and Italy. They're kind of the pinnacle. And like if you ever there's a whole nother topic, we can get like truffle oils. That's usually what they're mimicked off of. And I'll say truffle oils, there's nothing real about them. So that's what I'll say about it. But there's no truffle in it whatsoever. So they're mimicked after those Italian whites. And then the next step down is what we call Perigord truffles, or Tuber melanosporum is its Latin name. And that's one of the ones that they do farm here in the U.S. pretty successfully. There's not a lot of them yet. And it is kind of chocolatey, mushroom, tobacco. It's one of my favorites. I think it's great. They hold up well. They're a winter species, so they're in like December through March. Those Italian whites are September, maybe through January. And then you have summer and burgundy truffles, technically the same species. The Italians are funny. They harvest it in June. They call it one thing. And then as soon as it turns like September 1st, it's now burgundy truffles. So that's called tuberous stevum. They're nutty. They're found everywhere in Europe, like super abundant. So their price point is usually pretty approachable and low. They look like those Perigord truffles. If you buy butters and stuff, that's usually what's in them because they tend to be pretty cheap. They're nutty. They're good. I mean, they're not bad. And then here in the Northwest, we have, like I said, that the Oregon winter white truffle, which is Tuber oregonensis. Winter is in the name. And so aroma wise, they tend to be kind of like that Italian white, but they're much smaller in size. And they also have this note of, and I mean this in a good way, but like diesel gasoline. It is very potent. So it sounds weird. People really usually like them a lot, though. They are very strong. So little tiny pebbles can infuse lots of food and do a lot. So they're tiny powerhouses. The seasonality for them has been changing a little bit the last 5 years, which is crazy. We used to find them here in Washington in November. Now we're really not finding them till January, and their season's getting shorter. And we can talk about that, and it kind of changes where you are. Like in Washington, we find them before Oregon, and we have a longer season in Washington because we're a little colder. And then we have there's a lot. I'm trying to be quick about it.
Oh, that's
The Northwest, Pacific Northwest black truffle, which is Leucangium cascadensis, and they are super different. They are very delicate. They're fruity. They often smell like pineapples and chocolate and like strawberries and yogurt. Pair really well with seafood, I think. So like, oysters and stuff like that, scallops, salmon of place, right here in the Northwest. So they're really cool. They can have a much longer season. We technically find them every month of the year, but primarily cold months. So December and then usually through April, no problem. Sometimes we find them all the way till June, but the last couple of years we've had like heat things, and this year has been really bad for harvest because droughts and stuff. So, and then East Coast you have the pecan truffle. It kind of tastes like it sounds. They grow with pecan trees. They kind of taste like pecans in a mushroom form. They're cool. And then that Appalachian truffle is really hard to describe. It's a little bit fruity, a little bit nutty. It's like if you took the Pacific Northwest black truffle and married it with one of those ones from Europe and kind of put it together. They're cool. They're different. I have a hard time figuring out how to describe them. So that's all of the truffle species that are kind of the culinary. There are others, but like that's kind of that's the main ones. Yeah.
And these are, you're unable to find these on the ground. Like most mushrooms, they are always underground and not showing any signs of growth on top.
Yeah, so primarily, I mean, occasionally you'll get some that kind of poke out a little bit, but realistically, they're all going to be underground, and they can grow anywhere from like a couple of centimeters or right under to, I think the deepest one we found was over 3 feet.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't want to go that deep, but like they can. So, yeah.
So with the seasonality, what's the theory behind sort of like, in my mind, what I would call the reverse season of like you want to do the colder months versus the warmer months for most of the species?
Yeah, so make sure I understand what you mean. Like,
why is it that they're better in the winter? I guess is the more simplistic way.
Why can you find them?
Yes.
Why can you find them? So, and I didn't mention that, but like those East Coast species are more fall into winter, and then here they're really primarily winter. So they evolved to be a foodstuff for tiny animals, mammals, in times when there wasn't a lot of other food sources necessarily available. So for us in the Northwest, they're a primary food source for our little flying squirrels, and there isn't a ton out in winter. So they've evolved to be like that food source to be eaten and then spread around. So that's why they're good in winter. And then it's a biological mechanism that happens. So they take a long time to grow. The Northwest blacks are different, but every other species takes about 6 months to grow. So they start as little tiny pebbles in the soil, and they grow and grow and grow, and they don't ripen until you have cold temperatures, like those cold spikes that actually triggers those aromatics to come off. And that's how the animals or we find them. So yeah, so it's the cold temperatures. It's a biological thing that happens that causes it. Yeah.
And what happens, say, no one finds them and the truffle just remains in the ground? What does it do to sort of complete its life cycle?
Yeah, well, lots of little bugs love to eat them and spread the spores around. And there's some cool studies on that were actually done by a friend of mine in the UK during COVID. He took his kids and they like had little bugs eat them and then see how long they basically pooped out spores. So so the
It's the
bugs eat
best
them, and
COVID
they're
project I've ever heard.
I
That's
mean, you got a
awesome.
bunch of little
Yeah,
kids. What are you going to do? And he wrote a paper on it. It's great.
that's awesome.
Little bugs eat them and spread them around. So they just kind of go back into the soil, which is actually really good because it just allows more genetic diversity in that area. So, like, at the end of the season, too, with all of our little bits and pieces, because not everything we can sell to restaurants or chefs or use it in dog training for students. There's some stuff that's just like, it's kind of gross, but it's good material. So we actually blend it all up in like a milkshake. Sounds gross. Milkshake form and put it back out in the woods where it was found. And so
Oh,
you're
for the
just putting
spores.
it back out there.
That's cool.
Oh,
And
that's
it helps then for the next season, more of them be able to be there. So
I feel like we have to get Allie from Buggable, a past guest of ours, and talk about eating truffle flavored bugs.
there you go.
Yeah.
Ooh. Holy smokes! We just created a whole market of like
Right?
for the culinary space truffle flavored
Infused.
bugs.
Yeah.
As we think through them being in the fungus world, their location. So similar to mushrooms, like people identify like, hey, I've got this mushroom patch. Do they recur generally in the same locations kind of over and over?
Yeah. So all of the truffle species are what we call, they're mycorrhizal, so ectomycorrhizal. So they grow in association with certain trees. So certain host trees, and they're all different. Like our Northwest ones all prefer one type, and then on the East Coast, different trees. That's habitat stuff. But yeah, if you find them in one spot, you're not going to necessarily find it in like the exact same hole that you did, but like generally speaking in that area, yeah. And if you come back the next season, weather conditions and timing and everything being right, yeah, you'll find them there for sure.
It's cool. You mentioned earlier sort of the use of pigs and dogs to find them. Do you know kind of the history, evolution behind that, and then how we're arrived at the use of dogs and kind of the widespread use of dogs?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so for a long time in Europe, I mean, the joke we always talk about in Europe is using pigs, and it's a little old Frenchman who's like missing digits on his fingers from a pig finding it and him having to go in the mouth and grab it out. Pigs are real smart. You could train them not to do that too. But in a lot of places in Europe, they're actually, you can't use pigs anymore. They're outlawed because they've got big boar problems and stuff like that. But the way they root and find stuff can disturb the environment a lot. I mean, dogs can too if they're not trained well, but dogs can be trained to really pinpoint where it is, and then you can dig it out or they can dig it out a little easier. The other evolution of this it stems from Europe, where it's a much more kind of secretive, cutthroat environment. And the stories you hear that are super creepy, and there's some great books on this, are real. Like it's real intense over there because there's a lot of money involved in it. Over here, it's a little less lucrative. It's fun, but it's a little less like that. But like if anyone was walking a pig in the woods in Europe, everybody knows what you're doing, right? If you're walking a dog, you could just be out for a saunter, right? The other thing I always say is like pigs are a little harder to get in and out of the car. So it's kind of just like a necessity thing, and there's any breed can do it. And then there's a breed, and I have one of them, and I've had a few over the years in Italy called a Lagotto Romagnolo. Or a Lagotto is what we say in the US. But like I have colleagues in Europe who actually don't like to use that breed because they're known for truffle hunting for the same reason. Because if you're out walking with a Lagotto in the woods, everybody thinks you're truffle hunting, and now they know your patches, right? So there's still a bunch of that secrecy stuff.
Yeah.
Disguise your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't a dog, it's a goat.
It's a goat. It's a goat. That'd be good.
So you mentioned sort of the ideal species, or not ideal species, the ideal type of dog that traditionally is used. What broad range of dogs have you seen, and kind of where do we land in the U.S. on the use of different types of dogs?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, using a dog at all is what I'll give a round of applause for, because in a lot of places in the U.S., people still just use garden rakes to find them, and yeah, it's non bueno for a variety of reasons. Like if people do it scientifically to study something, one thing, it's not destructive, but there are like whole patches in Oregon where people come in, and it's twofold issue. One, hurts the trees and makes them less drought tolerant. So when we do have droughts, they die, hurts the salmon streams, stuff like that. The other thing is they harvest truffles when they're not ripe. Some are ripe, sure. But a bunch of them won't be, and they don't really it's like taking a green tomato and expecting it to have that same profile.
Okay.
So for a long time, it's getting better, but for a long time, the reputation of our native truffles has been really poor for that reason, because chefs get them and they're like, these taste like potatoes, right? And they shouldn't. They should be really aromatic. So that's part of it. But to get back to so that's my diatribe on don't rake, please use dogs. We have students who do this for fun of all kinds of breeds. So my favorite are the ones who have like a 4-pound Chihuahua who send me a photo of like a truffle the size of their head, where they're picking up the dog, taking it somewhere, putting it down, letting it walk around and move around. That being said, like in reality, hunting dogs are what we tend to use a lot. So I call them the sporting or the gun dogs. So, labs, golden retrievers, Lagotto fit into that category. German Shepherds do great. I mean, all of those kind of sporting breeds tend to do really, really well. But any dog can really do it. It's more about personality and how patient you are and how much you want to train them, versus like their natural kind of aptitude for it. So it's a lot more about the human side of it than it is about the dog side. But yeah, any of them can do it. If you're going to be like, you want to be out like foraging and doing more, I would pick one of the more sporty breeds, but you have to live with it the rest of the year. So that's what I always tell people too. So don't get something you don't want to live with, because you're only truffle hunting for how many days a year. So
is there something, say you just have an average family dog, you're kind of interested in this whole thing. Are there attributes that you could be looking at your dog to show whether it may or may not be a good truffle hunter?
Yeah. Do they like food, which is most of them? We use a lot of food. If
Wait,
they like
I
toys,
might be a
that's
good
great.
truffle hunter.
I was going to say. Here. Just dogs who like to learn and like engage with you and play and stuff like that tend to be, good qualities. I mean, most family pets really can do it. It's more about like how much time and energy you want to put into it and kind of setting up the structure, because they're all different, just like people. We all learn differently, right? And they're all individuals. So dogs who like to play, dogs who like doing tricks and things like that. We do, I will say that like the dogs who do those, like, if you've ever seen like that, like competition stuff where they do really formal obedience and things like that, like that is actually not as good for truffle hunting. Dogs that are always focused on you and need direction can't independently think as well. And we really want dogs who are going to go out into the environment and kind of problem solve themselves. So a little more independent thinking. But that being said, they can all really do it. So
Do you think like kind of the bird dog mentality of like go out and make big wide swath circles, like decide is this a target or not?
Right.
Okay.
And herding breeds, like, truffles don't move, so it's a little easier for them. But and they can be environmentally sensitive and stuff too. But they're trained really to be independent thinkers and problem solve, so they can really do it well. So it's just if a dog is like highly overtrained, doesn't mean they can't do it. But I don't want them always looking to me. I shouldn't have to tell them every time what to do. They should be able to be in an environment and understand how to move through it and locate it on their own. And we train that, but it's innate to some dogs.
Adam, do you think Arrow's a good candidate?
I think so. Arrow's a small Münsterlander, so she's like a German Spaniel. Yeah,
I know those. They're great.
Yeah. So and she's really curious and loves the woods and loves sniffing. And I did chanterelles with her, but she kept trying to eat them. And I kind of just stopped the training there. But I don't want her eating mushrooms that she finds in the woods. But I think she'd be good at it. You
totally should, especially if you're out there and where you are in that part of Canada and the East. There definitely is stuff up there. I'll send you some odors and stuff to get started on. You totally should. It's because if you're out there anyway foraging for stuff, you'll be surprised what you come across. It's super cool.
I forage with her several times a week, so it's great.
Oh, fun.
LinkedIn is pretty amazing at helping you grow your small business. We cannot make your email response time faster. We can help you sell, market, and hire in one place. We cannot help you find space for your 3 desk drinks. Why do you have 3? And while we can't help you find the perfect volume for your presentation video, LinkedIn can help you find the perfect audience for your business. Grow your small business on LinkedIn. Learn more at linkedin.com/small business.
And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
So I want to talk about cooking in a little bit because that's fun. But two things I want to hit on is sort of like, how have you seen the community build? And if someone wants to step into the community and start to either learn on their own or just get involved with other people, kind of two-pronged question, I guess, there.
Yeah. Yeah. The community has been something that's been really important to us. And like I said, when there wasn't really infrastructure, and there still is not like a ton of hard infrastructure in the industry, but something really important to me in kind of growing awareness and not gatekeeping that. Right. Because I think that's a tendency in any kind of like mushroom foraging thing. It's like, oh no, I really want people to be able to experience this and not have it be like a high bar for entry. Right. So you're always welcome to reach out to us. There's some great ways to engage online. I know Facebook is not everybody's jam, but there are some great groups on there. We run one. There are a bunch of others. The East Coast and like Canada is a little bit more of the Wild West with this stuff in terms of community. But I think one of the ways you can always approach that too is just from a community side is if you have local mycological groups, they're usually so supportive of anybody interested in this. And if you have a trained dog, would be delighted to be like, well, what kind of habitat do you think you need? We'll go out and walk around, right? Like-minded people wanting to kind of go out and forage. So it's a good way to start to get engaged to just reach out to your local mycological society. If you're here in the Northwest, there's usually a bunch of truffle hunters, and we do public hunts and things like that and community related stuff. So that's a good way to get started. There's some festivals and things. There's a bunch of stuff up here in the Northwest. On the East Coast, it's not so much focused on the wild, but they're trying to incorporate the Asheville Truffle Festival is in, I think, January or February usually. So there's some stuff out there. They work with a lot of the farmers and stuff. So that's one, right, on kind of community, getting engaged a little bit. And then the other is, there are a little bit of YouTube videos online. We're going to be putting out like an ebook type thing, like a DIY. We teach classes, like live classes done by a Zoom as well as in person, all that kind of stuff. And there are some other trainers in the Northwest, and one of the gals we work with, and then maybe one or two on the East Coast who do in-person stuff. But if you don't have access to that, nose work is like a dog sport, and you can find instructors for that all over. And that's a great way to kind of get started. And the behaviors that you use in nose work, especially at the beginning, are pretty similar to what we do in truffle hunting. There's different things you want to focus on. But you can start with that and then add in truffle odors and things. And so if you don't have access to classes and things like that, that's a good way to get started. But there are starting to be a little bit more resources online. So, and we teach classes. So always reach out and say hi. We're happy to connect you with whoever we know in the area to try to make that happen.
We'll put some links and everything in the show notes, but could you tell people exactly how to get a hold of you and like how to, if they're interested? Yeah,
great. I should probably say that. Yeah, so you can always look us up it's just truffledogcompany.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook, trying to do a little bit more in YouTube. I again have a channel from like 15 years ago. It's probably got 2 videos, but we're going to start doing some cooking stuff on it, hopefully.
Nice.
That's the plan anyway. So yeah, reach out to us online, shoot us an email, reach out to us on Instagram. We can connect. Just tell us where you are, and I can be like, oh, hey, talk to Lois, or, it's really important to us, like I said, to try to get people engaged in this, and education is a huge part of that. So reach out to us and we'll connect you, or join our online forums. We're always having chats and trying to put together new educational material for folks. So yeah,
that's so cool. And before we get into cooking, I kind of have another two-pronged kind of question. So how much would you say is, when you're doing truffle, like you mentioned, raking is not a good idea. Like how much of truffle hunting is, are you participating in stewardship rather than just collecting? And does good harvesting practices help proliferate the truffles where in the places you go?
Yeah. So stewardship's really important, right? When we go into a truffle environment, you should know I've been there afterwards. So like I said, dogs can dig a lot too. You make sure you put all the dirt back. You make sure you're not, trespassing, all that kind of stuff. And we work with a lot of small farmers and small timber owners and stuff to try to keep it in small timberland. And that's really important. So it's a big part of it. I think stewardship's a huge part of it. And if you do take good care of it, and like harvesting anything, you're not going to go into a space and pull every first of all, it wouldn't happen with truffles anyway, but you're not going to pull everything out of it, right? Like the animals need that too. The environment needs it. So, really only take what you need or are planning to use. We try to teach all of that as well. Common kind of foraging ethics. And it does, if you do that, then yes, you keep your patches very happy, healthy. When the raking happens, this is up for debate, but it really does damage that environment and it won't keep producing like that. So yeah, stewardship's super, super, super important. Yeah.
It's something good to know for people foraging anything. That's an incredibly important part, and truffles sound like they're no different.
Could you expand a little bit on sort of the land aspect of it? I guess the types of land you're able to forage on, because, I know different regulations exist in different places.
Oh, sure do. So every state is different, as well as harvesting laws, and it's all changing all the time. So this will be interesting the next few years because there's starting to be a little bit more regulations around some of this. Like I said, it's been a little Wild West everywhere. But in Oregon, there's very different laws than we have in Washington. We harvest on private land a lot for stuff that we're going to sell because the way the laws are structured, it just makes it easier for everybody and we can track it. And again, if we're selling it, we have to trace it for, I always confuse USDA and FDA for like food safety. We have to track it, right? So there's that. But yeah, if you're doing this for fun, usually, and you'll need to look up your own state regulations because it is different state to state, they fall under mushroom harvesting laws usually. In Oregon, there's a separate set of truffle laws just for truffle hunting, which is interesting. Big deal when it first went in a few years ago. But yeah, usually they fall under that. And then each, forest parcel will have their own regulations and rules and limits. Like in Washington, we have our Department of Natural Resources, as well as all the state parks, as well as all the federally run land, and they're all different. So we are working to try to collate that information to try to make it easier for people to understand because it's kind of a bear to get at. And like BLM in Oregon, you can go buy permits for. So in a lot of these public land spots in places where they know truffles exist, you can go get recreational harvesting permits, just like you would for mushroom harvesting. And then some places they allow you to walk around and do it. And it's not a big deal. And some places really don't want. So yeah, that doesn't really answer your question. But the shorter answer is look under mushroom harvesting laws will be probably where it falls. And Canada's a whole nother ballgame with this too, with like crown land and, XYZ. But yeah, private land, if we know they're there, we just knock on doors and be like, we think you might have them. So can we come check it out? And that's the habitat piece where you got to understand what you're looking for habitat as part of it.
In terms of that, if you're out for a truffle shuffle, so to speak, and you're looking for something, like, have you found them in like a big backyard before, or do you have to go way deep in the woods, or like...
No, this is the funniest thing. So there's a species called our spring white truffle. We don't find as many of them, but they do tend to pop up in urban areas. And literally, my husband was digging out garden boxes in the back, and he thought it was just like a plant tuber or something, and put it up there. I was like, "Oh my God, where did you find this?" So literally in my backyard. Awesome. So you do find them in some of these urban areas a little bit, like in the Northwest where we are. And there's always those stories, even in France, like somebody's back garden. They're like, "What is this?" Because it plays with the one in my backyard is associated with a big Doug fir tree we have, and I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, they do pop up in urban areas, but otherwise in the Northwest, we're looking at primarily Douglas fir forests of a certain age. So different species like different things, but from about 10 to 25, 30, you'll find the white truffles. And then from about 20 to, is it 60? I think 40, 45, 50, you'll find our native black truffles, our native blacks, like a little bit wetter, colder environments. Think like big trees, dripping moss, really lots of ferns. The white truffles like a lot more lowland, kind of farmland areas that have been planted with timber. On the East Coast, TBD a little bit. Pecan truffles, obviously named as such because they grow in the countries. And there's big pecan farms that actually have them on it as like a byproduct. They don't even know that they're there, but they're kind of popping out of the ground. But in the wild, you're looking at, it seems like some pine out there has them. We're still learning. And then pine, hickory, and obviously wild pecan stands, some of those hardwoods out on the East Coast. But we're still learning what those habitats look like out there. So, we're not entirely sure.
We had a pecan tree in my backyard growing up in Oklahoma, And I'm wondering if we were sitting on pecan truffles.
And that happens. That literally happens. Like one of our gals is based in Texas, and she went to just go check some stuff out. And it's literally, they have a lot of pecan trees, but there's this one in their backyard, just has a ton of them. It's like, it's crazy.
That's cool.
So yeah, they grow where they grow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Any idea on, like, I know we talked about sort of the spores being dispersed, of like how did they get to be in these places kind of to begin with?
Place.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, and this is probably a PSA I should say about it too. So yeah, it's interesting. The white, like there's two different things. So the native black truffles are like in their own biological category. All of the other truffle species fall in the tuber family, and they're related to the ones from Europe. And it's a great question. I don't actually have an answer to that. It would be really interesting to know, like, evolutionarily, like how that happened and they got here, or they were here, and how it kind of spread. Our native black truffles are related to morels. So they evolved, they're from that same family. So they just like kind of a lot of species, co-evolved to do different things.
Sure.
And so they evolved to be underground. But I will say, for that reason, and a lot of people don't know this yet, because, not many people have tried a bunch of them. All those tuber species, there have been very few reports of anybody ever getting sick or, stuff like that. Those black truffles, the native black truffles, we're starting to see a little bit of people who have sensitivity to them, just like you do morels.
Just like morels.
Sure.
So I always tell people, again, like when you're eating, don't just go hog wild your first time out and put like a ton of them on, because you might get a tummy upset. And it can, like morels, it can build over time too. So we haven't seen a ton of cases of that, but we're starting to see a few of them as it's getting to be a little more popular. But again, not with those other species. So yeah, it's interesting. I'll have to ask around about that and get back to you, because it's a good question. I don't know. I'm sure some of the mycological guys would have a good answer for like how those truffle species kind of all evolved. Yeah.
I'm wondering too, like traditional indigenous use of it, if any. I've got, and we may be too far south, but I have like a traditional Choctaw, so that's my tribe from Oklahoma, but they wrote a very in-depth, I would say both cookbook and academic paper on like the traditional culinary practice of like the Choctaws, which I would say probably largely represent your large bands of Southeast tribes, because it's going to be very similar. But I don't know, maybe the pecan truffle dipping down that far, but I don't know if you would see much use of it. I'll have to thumb through there and see, or ask him.
It's interesting. Yeah, well, and because written histories for it. So we are actually asking and trying to investigate this in our native populations around here, right? And we have some great students and stuff who are really involved in the native communities and whatnot, and trying to like talk to elders and things like that. Because here in the Northwest, I mean, our native black truffles are pretty abundant. So it must have been something, but yeah, not a lot has been like written about or published about any of that yet. So yeah, it would be really interesting to know, though.
Sure. No, that's great.
Do you hear that? Sounds like breakfast is ready. Because Quaker's coming in hot with morning nutrition. 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber to fuel the rhythm of your morning and kickstart your day. And that sounds absolutely delicious. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
So we got a truffle. You either emptied your wallet at the farmer's market, or you found one with your dog and you brought it home. This isn't going to be like another mushroom you might be more familiar with. You're not going to just cook it, eat it whole. No. So that's probably a mistake. So what's the simplest way to just appreciate a fresh truffle you brought home for the first time?
Yeah. Don't eat it like an apple. They taste really gritty and gross. We've had people do that, and they're very surprised. It just tastes like gritty dirt. Yeah, so one of the things I think that is underestimated is, like, let's say you buy one or you found one, those lovely aromatics, whatever they are, whether that's that like gassy smell, which again people like, or that fruity tropical thing, infuse it into food. So anything that has fat or alcohol, the aromatics will actually go out of the truffle and into whatever that is and get held in it. So butter is like the easiest thing you can do. And then you can freeze it, and then you can have it during summer with like steaks or corn or whatever, which is awesome. And to do that, like the easiest thing to do is you bring your truffle home. They like to stay cold, so you'll eventually be putting it in a fridge, but you get essentially like a ideally glass Tupperware container. You're going to wrap your truffle in paper towels just to protect it and pull moisture off because they give off a lot of moisture. Don't put it in rice. Big misnomer. Rice doesn't do anything. It just dries it out. And you're going to take whatever you want to infuse, so like your log of butter, and put it right next to it in a sealed container and shove it in the fridge for a day or two. Now you can still use your truffle during that time and take it out and cut it and eat it. But all those yummy aromatics are going into your butter that you can then freeze and use. So that's number one. The other thing I would say, the easiest thing is honestly just like pasta. So simple ingredient pasta. And I'll give you guys a recipe one of our teammates made. It's like a 5-ingredient pasta, works for all the species. Super easy, super simple, very tasty. Nice. And you don't cook the truffle. You really put it on when the food is still hot, and it allows the heat to kind of cook it just enough so that you're getting all those lovely aromatics. So that's kind of the easiest way. But we love infusing things. So, I mean anything. So like, it sounds weird, avocado, a lot of fat, right? So avocado, nuts work really well. With our native black truffles, I like doing brownies. Just, you can get store-bought ones, and kids like it a lot. They're so good. It just makes it like, it doesn't even taste truffly. It just makes it better. It hits this thing in your brain that's just like, it adds an extra oomph or whatever. So the brownies are my favorite, and macaroons, things like that. You can do sweets and stuff, go really well with the black truffles. Yeah, infusing is one of the easiest things you can do. So we always say if you have a truffle at home, let it do work for you. Don't let it just be sitting in your fridge hanging out. Like, even if you're going to eat it that night, put something in with it to try to infuse for a few hours. Yeah,
that's a great idea. Have you ever heard of anybody truffle curing bacon?
Ooh.
Sorry, my mind's just like spinning. I'm like, what all can?
Yeah. I mean, how long would that curing process take? Would be with the bacon. That's my concern, because the truffles have a shelf life, kind of, even in the fridge.
Yeah. It would depend on how much you're doing, but usually I'm just thinking by weight. I mean, if you did a small amount, you could probably do it in like a week.
Okay, that's doable. That's totally doable. Yeah. Much longer than that, the problem, and the European species would be fine because they hold up better. Our native species, pecan truffles, are like invincible, though. They will last forever.
Oh my gosh!
That's also why
truffle-infused bacon.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah, that actually would be really good. That's the problem with truffles, is like a week is for our native ones is like as long as they kind of last.
Okay.
So you'd be pushing it, but that would be really, really good, and you could totally do that. I know, as long as it can be under refrigeration, that's the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, you would seal it, and you could probably add. I was thinking through, like, how do they react with salt, though?
Fine. I think the sealing thing, though, it'd be interesting if this is sealed for a week, because the truffles interact with oxygen, and so it's kind of like you would need to burp it every once in a while, maybe, because otherwise it's just going to get so pent up in there. And I would actually argue with, like, say you were doing this with the Oregon whites, you might only leave the truffles in there for 2 days and then keep curing it because it's already infused in it, because they're so strong that you can overdo it with those. The other species you can't really overdo, but you 100% can overdo it with the whites.
That's probably the process then, is to partially cure with the truffles and then to pull out and finish curing. Yeah.
That would be really good.
You can put it in a container that does have some air and burp it, and like depending on how you're doing it, the cure. Now I'm very intrigued. Okay.
I like this idea. Yeah, you'll have to. I'll be right over. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have any culinary truffles in Hawaii. I just Googled and learned. I think it's too warm here. Although, well, I don't know. It does get cold in places here and stay cool, and like on the Big Island in the mountains for sure. I wonder. Maybe nobody's never looked.
It'd be interesting. It's such a different, like, ecological zone, right? You never know. Right?
Do they have truffles in, like, Japan?
They do, and like in the mountains in Mexico, and like, there's all kinds of stuff. But in Japan, 100% there are. Yeah, very similar to some of those European species.
I'm not sure if you would know this fact or not, but I was just thinking of the proliferation and problem of wild pigs in the States, and pigs being used to forage for truffles. Do they forage for truffles on their own and dig up and ruin these sites, all the wild pigs?
They probably do. We don't have as much of in the parts of Oregon and Washington where primarily like I operate, we don't have huge boar problems or pig problems.
Yeah.
But I bet in the Southeast and things like that, or even in California, in those commercial farms we work with, like they have boar problems. They have to have fencing around their truffle trees so that they don't, pretty aggressive fencing so the boars can't get in. So yeah, I bet it happens all over in Texas and stuff too. I'm sure. I just haven't heard a lot of reports of it, but I'm sure it happens. Yeah.
Interesting. There you got your bacon
Yeah.
pre-seasoned.
Pre-infused. I like this.
Are there do people like feed animal or truffles to animals in order to like kind of get them?
Pre-infuse them?
I know it's a weird. Yeah, pre-infused. Dip them in truffles before they go.
I bet in France it happens.
Yeah. I'm just wondering with the value and price, like if that's not, or maybe they take old ones that maybe are past their prime.
I think that our industry is not developed enough to do that yet.
That's a fair question.
Yeah. I see where your head is at with that, and like 100%, I'm sure there's somebody trying it or doing it, but the cost is probably prohibitive to like, unless you have a supply of them for that. So I don't think it's happened much yet, but I could see that being a thing. But our industry is still pretty small to be able to support stuff like that, I think. Yeah, at least domestically.
I was going to ask you, is there a like a myth you hear about truffles a lot that you want to dispel in front of an audience?
No, it's a great question, and I wish I was proven because I'm sure there are several. Let me see. Well, one is that, they're expensive, but they're not our native ones, I should say. They are still expensive, and there's a lot of labor, obviously, that goes into it. But they're not like, people aren't getting like rich off of doing this, right? We do it because it's fun and we like it, not because I live in $1 million house or anything, right? I wish. So there's that. I think there's a little bit that people think that our native ones are that same kind of value as those those white European ones at like auction. And it's just not. So there's that. I don't know. Have you heard anything that is besides the pig thing that, I don't know.
It's funny, we're talking, I hate to bring it up, but I will. Have you seen the 2021 Nicolas Cage movie, Pig?
So, you know what? I know all about it. And one of our friends was like the truffle consultant on it, which is hilarious. I sadly have not yet. I need to. I very much need to. So, yeah.
It's a different film. Have you seen it, Adam?
It's good. People like it. People really like it.
Yeah, it's I think it's your, I wouldn't say it's your classic Nick Cage film because there's been an evolution there, but
safe to say it's strange, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. You're just like, and then you started like, it reveals the storyline, and then like it's worth a watch. It's
funny. Yeah. It was a big to do when they were like filming that. Everyone's like, ooh, they're doing the truffle pig thing. Yeah.
Which is interesting because why wouldn't it be a truffle dog?
I know. I think we all tried to pitch the producers on that. They're like, no,
it doesn't have the same draw.
I don't think once you see the movie, it won't. It won't fit with it. You'll be like, oh yeah, dog probably wouldn't.
Little too John Wick.
Yeah. They're like, dang it, they already did that. Well, I guess, so we're coming up on the tail end of time, unfortunately, because this has been a really great conversation, and I still have loads of questions, but I'm sure we will continue to converse after this, and would love to, help support the community in any way you see fit. What's a good way for people to connect? I know we've touched on social media and stuff like that, the various avenues, if they've got questions, if they want to, kind of jump into the community or start training their dog or anything.
Well, so I mentioned this, and please bear with us. We are completely redoing our website, so it's a little cumbersome at the moment, but you can always just reach out to us online. We have a contact form. We're always happy to talk to people, answer questions, chat about stuff, connect you to resources. So it's just at Truffle Dog Company, all spelled out, .com, or hit us up on Instagram. We don't always see those messages as fast, but I'm working on it. So yeah, that's a great way to connect, and we can, point you towards resources or, what's growing in your area and things like that. So, and events and things like that. It's a good way to follow along on what's going on.
Perfect. We generally do kind of like a round of last thoughts, ideas, concepts. I'll give you a sec to formulate things and kick it over to Adam if he's got a kind of a last thought or idea.
Yeah, just, first of all, thanks so much for coming. I've been hearing about this for years and so interested in, and now you've inspired me to give my dog Arrow a run at some truffles. So that should be really fun. Yeah. But I was just going to mention for people who, they can be such a esoteric and hard to get an ingredient. If you're interested in just trying the flavor of it, we mentioned that truffle oil isn't actually truffle, but it does carry a very similar oil or aroma as the European ones. And there's even truffle chips and everything nowadays. So I find there's ways to get a sense of what we're talking about without the actual real products, just to get that like magical weird sense of what truffle is. It's so hard to explain the earthiness and the deliciousness of it. But I'd recommend people like go try something and get a sense of what we're talking about, and then try to get your own, whether it's through purchasing one or signing up and finding one.
Or hit us up, because we do know a lot of truffle farmers who will send you stuff and products and things like that. Because I think I was just at a conference with this, and the farmers are very into people getting to know what the real ones taste like too, because it is different than this. You talk about myths to get dispelled. Yeah. The oils and things like that, and we do make some that that are made just with all natural stuff, but it's some of those oils it is a good gateway, but it's like a one note, whereas the real ones are so dynamic. So they don't have to be as expensive as you think, and there's a lot of ways to approach it. So like I said, happy to connect you with local foragers and stuff like that who can get you some. So big on that.
Alana, last thoughts? Anything for us or the audience, or questions for us? Like whatever.
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm sure there's a million. I want to do this again so we can all just chit chat and ourselves. If you're out in the Northwest, come out, and we like taking people out hunting. Come out hunting with us. It's a really fun adventure. And like Adam was saying, if you want to try some of the species, we only really have the white and the pecan right now for people to try, but we did make a bunch of those truffle oils that are very indicative of what they actually taste like. So hit us up for that. And then other thoughts. Doing this with your dog is really just, it's fun activity. So if you have a pet, even if you're not going to like go out in the woods and stuff, it's a fun party trick. It's fun for kids to hide things around the house. And it really helps dogs like build confidence and just your relationship with them. So really big on that. So I would say just, if you want a fun game to kind of play with your dog, it's a really cool activity to do, and it can be super family oriented.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Alana. Yeah. This has been a really awesome discussion, and we really enjoyed it. And you've definitely, I told you at the beginning of the show before you even got on, I've been wanting to talk about this whole thing for a long, long time, and these thoughts have been swirling around in my head, and I think I scratched the surface of so I definitely want to chit-chat again soon, and just continue to stay connected. I think there's a lot of fun stuff to be done in this space. But everybody out there, we'll throw all the show notes online. We'll include any links, anything like that. We'll try to work to get a recipe posted at some point in time for some truffle stuff on Harvesting Nature, and so we can share it wide and far and out with you guys. And then thanks again for listening. And whatever podcast platform you're listening to, please punch that 5-star button. Leave us a review. Tell us we're doing wrong, or tell us we're doing right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Sometimes creating an ad campaign can feel like you're talking on mute. But advertising on Spotify is different. We'll help your business turn up the volume and reach an engaged audience that's ready to hear and see your message. Learn how Spotify can add more to your mix at ads.spotify.com.
Come Undone is the new novel from multi-hyphenate Eddie Wong, best-selling author of Fresh Off the Boat. What happens when a red flag catches real feelings? Author Jean Chen Ho says it best. Come for the satirical millennial cringe and over-the-top luxury lifestyle fantasy. Stay for the surprisingly sensitive portrayal of a bombastic, big-hearted dude bro. Come Undone is available now.